So for everyone following today, we are here at the Design Museum in Helsinki at Jenny Nordberg's huge solo exhibition. And for people who don't know who you are, Jenny, I'm reading from my little list here. You are a designer slash artist. Would that be all right?
Well, I say designer myself, but anything goes.
Okay. And I mean, you say designer, and that's completely right, because you were actually elected Designer of the Year in Sweden 2022 by Rum magazine, and you have also won the LDK Design Awards. So that's you. You're fantastic. And you work in the shadowy regions between being a fully skilled designer and fine artist, and that's just me talking now. And you've made this book, which I have here in my hand, for this exhibition, where Suvi Saloniemi of the Design Museum said you have a no-nonsense attitude. Is that about right?
A no-nonsense attitude. Sounds fantastic. Let's go with that.
Yeah, and by reading this book, I've also learned that other people have said that your work is brutal, yet aesthetically pleasing and fun. And I'll just have to agree with these testimonies. And the best example of all this is this exhibition we're standing in now, Strategies for Moving Freely. And I was thinking, this is obviously a big exhibition. Not everyone has been to this place. So what if we start off by walking around for a little bit? We'll take a look at some of your stuff. You get to say a couple of words, and then we'll talk more freely.
Yeah,
that's all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to turn this camera around now, because here, can you please tell me what's going on here?
Well, it's a chair that I call free applications chair. It's made by using free software, like free apps. And due to the, how do you say, these free apps are not so refined, so the result is also not so refined. You can see that it looks like a chair, but it's really rough. The shape is maybe not so sharp that many would have wished for, but that's also the result of these free apps. And I have collaborated with a Finnish producer of bioplastics. So all the plastic in this chair is based on bio resources, which are also renewable. And it's a Finnish company that I find super interesting. They're called Bright Plus. And I'm really pleased with this collaboration.
Right. And I'm looking at this little sign that says I can actually touch it. And what we're looking at here is they're just small plastic granules.
Yeah.
And they're not all the same. Some of these are biodegradable, right?
Mm.
Yes. And I'm reading just from the wall here that some of them are made out of some kind of birch, right?
Mm.
Yes. How did you get to hear about this manufacturer? Because I've never heard about it.
No. Well, in the beginning of the process of making the exhibition, the curator asked me if I wanted to make some kind of collaboration with some kind of Finnish collaborator. And I've had this idea for this chair. It's 3D printed. I didn't say that. I had this idea for this chair for a long time, and I just thought it could be a nice idea to maybe realize it within this context. And I think both me and the museum just started Googling for an interesting filament producer. The filament is a thread in the 3D printer. And we both actually found Bright Plus. So it was more or less a coincidence, I would say. But they are a company, an innovation company that if one doesn't know about them, one should really check them up, because the possibilities they provide are sort of endless. I'm so impressed by how they work.
Right. And is this a chair you can actually buy off the company?
Well, you can buy anything. But this is the only example. It's not mass produced.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So moving on in this exhibition, your mirrors. I'm reading from the wall here. Can a mistake be beautiful? Well, can it, Jenny?
Yeah, I think so. Most of my work originates from some kind of mistake or allowing mistakes to be a part of the process. So my answer to that would be yes.
So what's going on in this mirror? Because it's not, the surface is not completely even.
Yeah.
You got this green stuff going on here.
Yeah, it's green stuff and then it's silver. And the mirrors are made how you made mirrors like 300 years ago. Today we don't do mirrors like this because it's too expensive and too uncontrollable. But it's made very similar to how you develop analog photography. So it's a chemical process that sort of develops the mirror over time. And the result, of course, traditionally you want to cover the whole surface, but I didn't really have the time in this project that they originate from. I just had the time to spill something out on a surface. And that is also what makes each mirror unique, that how I spilled it or how it sort of pours out on the glass determines the shape and the shadings, etc.
Right, and you get this really organic shapes, almost like a puddle that makes the whole thing unique. Oh, that's really cool. So moving on, what I would like to talk about, you have this special chair. Oh, there it is. I mean, positive enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about the story behind this chair?
Well, this is a chair and a project that is quite untraditional for coming from me. It originates from a dream that I had, and it was a dream that occurred during the pandemic. I had much less work during the pandemic, which somehow led to me dreaming a lot more, or at least remembering my dreams. And one of those very rich and vivid dreams that I had during this time was that I saw in the dream a chair that was smiling towards me, and the smile was sort of the perfect smile. And then, as you know, with dreams, you wake up and then the dream is really there, but then it sort of just fades away very quickly. So I tried to draw the chair on a paper, but it was sort of impossible to draw this chair. And then it just disappeared. And I tried several times to sort of recreate this smiling chair, but I couldn't do it. And then maybe half a year later, I went to this sawmill where I live in the countryside in southern part of Sweden. And there were these big oak slabs just lying around. And there it was, suddenly, the smile, exactly the smile from the dream, this big 3-meter wide thing. So I just asked for those oak pieces from the sawmill, and then I built this chair, which sort of quite accurate resembles the chair from the dream.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's like a very feverish dream, if you ask me.
Yeah.
You have to have a certain kind of home if you were to use this as an actual chair.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah.
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 Yeah, but that looks really good. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to this little section here. This is called, was this called a bologna sandwich candle?
Yeah. It's a candle holder, yeah, made from a bologna sandwich that I bought in a cheap store. And the idea around this sandwich was when I lived in the city, I lived close to a really cheap grocery store. And I often went there, but a lot of the food was not, suitable for eating because the quality of the food was so poor. And especially this bread that had a shelf life for 3 months, and the butter, which didn't contain any butter, and the bologna sandwich was made with unsuitable meat and different chemicals. So instead, I wanted to treat the food as a material. So it became a model for this candle holder, which I then casted in pewter. And I don't know. So now when I talk about it, it sounds like a strange idea and a strange process, but that's quite often how it is in my head, like just thinking of stuff and then just doing it.
No, again, to me, this seems like a dream as well. Is this what you could call a traditional Swedish prickkorvsmörgås?
Yeah, it's quite traditional, I would say. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes, and moving on, The Ghost. This is one of my favorite projects. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Well, The Ghost is actually a tribute to one of my employees. His name is Johnny Ståhl. I have never met him, but he has a position at my company. And he was invented because he isn't really a person. He's more like a, how do you say, you have these different aliases. And he was invented to, to access the Swedish industry in a more easier way, because me as a female designer, like all the doors, at least in the beginning of my career, all the doors were closed. I couldn't get into any of the, the metal foundries or the welding workshops or anything. So I invented Johnny Ståhl. He sends these emails and all the doors are open for him. And he gets really nice deals, and he sort of, he fixes a lot of things that, I mean, I don't have the time to knock on doors that won't open. So Johnny opens a lot of doors, and then I did this perfume, so at least we can smell his presence in the room, even though he isn't really there. So that's the short story about Johnny Ståhl, and this perfume called The Ghost, because that's what Johnny is. He's kind of a ghost.
I really love this, and I read in your book that the aftershave smells like old-fashioned aftershave and dust, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a very old school scent, I would say.
This reminds me a lot of the Homer Simpson episode where he does a similar thing. He tries to get a better position in life by changing his name to Max Power.
Yeah.
And Max Power's attribute is that he's decisive, uncompromising, and rude. So
yeah. Johnny is also a bit rude, I have to say, but that doesn't really seem to matter. And you told me about this Simpson character the last week, and that was really fun because I have a new character now. He works in the economic department, and his name is actually also Max, but his name is Max Bratt. And he tries to collect unpaid invoices, etc. So yeah, the company is growing. My studio is growing, one could say.
I love that you have all these imaginary friends like Johnny Steel, Målagan, Max. You know, everyone should have a big company like yours. Cause
yeah. Absolutely.
I'm finding this very fascinating. But moving on, could you tell us what's going on here?
Well, it's a brass bracelet called €1. The scrap value of this bracelet is €1 if you would go to a scrap dealer. And I made this a long time ago, I think in 2012. And at that point, that was the daily wage for a Chinese factory worker that worked with making accessories for, big fashion brands. So it was made in connection to an exhibition that sort of dealt with those kinds of topics. So yeah.
Yes, and in your book it says, if this one is made in Sweden, right, by unionized workers who get a living wage, and if Western standards should be applied to manufacturing an object like this, it should cost something in the region of €55.
Yeah, so I think the discussion that I wanted to provoke was how can things be so cheap?
Exactly.
And people assume that this bracelet also costs €1 because we're used to these very, very low prices. And then when I say no, it costs €55, and they're just like, what? And then there's a discussion, there's an opening for a discussion about minimum wages and how things actually work within production.
Yes, and to me that takes us pretty seamlessly to these other projects of yours, Active Cargo. Deals with the same issues, that Europe consumes 25% of the world's raw materials, yet produces only 3%. So I'm guessing this is sort of a thread in your work that you've been working with for a longer time now.
Yeah, I think I've been working with this already from when I graduated in 2005. I'm a trained industrial designer, and I'm sort of trained into this global large-scale mass production system that I really don't believe in. So throughout my whole career, I have worked with different questions regarding this. And in the active cargo project, I have this thesis that the global production system or industry doesn't really use all the potential, like shipping stuff that is a big part of this global system. The goods are totally not in motion. They are just still. Nothing really happens with them. And isn't this a misuse of time and money? Shouldn't the goods be active? Like, shouldn't the goods actually be produced while being shipped? Because shipping or cargo, I mean, cargo is both shipping and lorries, etc., and airplane. That involves a lot of motion, and shouldn't that motion be what sort of produces the items? So this is a more theoretical project where I built these machines that sort of imitates or resembles different movements within cargo, within shipping, etc. And then I have produced different items or developed different techniques of how to produce while being shipped or driven or flown.
Yes, and that's really fascinating because sort of tying in with this, you also have these 3 to 5 seconds objects that you call rapid handmade production.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, I get quite tired of myself being very black and white, like this is okay, this is not okay. So I wanted sort of to challenge myself, and I wanted to ask myself, is there really nothing good with mass production? I mean, there must be something. And then I could agree on that the speed that we can find in mass production could actually be quite good. And then I decided to turn myself into a production facility and challenge myself if I could produce items within 3 to 5 seconds, like machine fast. And that project has gone through, like it has, I have worked with that for some time, and it has now 12 different objects in it. And I know that you have made a workshop around these candle holders that you're showing there.
I have.
Yes.
I took the workshop here at the Design Museum with my child who is 8. He was really disappointed it didn't last longer. So
yeah, it's a bit short, 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah, but I do get the sentiment. And what I like about this, even though you're making something really quick, you're making them beautiful. I mean, you didn't choose these colors by accident. It looks almost like ice cream. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So I'm happy to say there's quite a lot of people here at your exhibition. So you're obviously doing a good job. But I'm thinking we should probably sit down now and maybe have a little chat now that everyone knows what you're working in, basically. And what I want to start off with is to start with this question that your work is very intriguing, yet doesn't feel like the classic kind of design that somebody would hire you to do. So how do you balance this self-expression of yours with the practical side of things?
Do you mean with the practical side of things, how do I make a living? Is that what you're aiming for?
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is how you make a living in the context of capitalism that still is the prevailing system we're living in.
Yeah. Well, I think there's this idea that designers only earn a living from designing or drawing stuff for other companies, but there are many ways to earn a living from being a designer. In my case, I'm often hired when it comes to more strategic work. So I do consultancy work when it comes to that, like how to think about things. And then, sorry, my computer just died. Then I also work with 3 different galleries around the world where I sell unique objects. And I would say that sort of creates the financial foundation of my studio, that then makes it possible for me to work in a more free manner. So of course I'm a part of the capitalist system somehow.
Yes, of course. And that's really cool that you managed to somehow carve out this niche for yourself, that you're actually able to do this. But what I'm thinking, was there a time that you actually had to give in a bit and work as a traditional designer, doing chairs or whatever?
No, but yes and no. I mean, I think we need to expand the idea of what a designer is and what a designer can do. I have never compromised. I have never worked with someone that I sort of can't be open with. So I have never done things that I can't really say that I'm doing. But I would say all the things that I do is very much what a designer can do. I mean, design is so much bigger. So I don't know. The answer is both yes and no, maybe.
Yes. How did you get into this line of work you're doing today? I'm guessing, what was your journey? Because obviously you started out as a traditional, I mean, studying to be a traditional designer, but then something happened.
Well, I've known my whole life that I wanted to become an industrial designer since I was 7 years old. So that has been like the goal all the time. And then when I went to industrial design school, in the middle of that, I really wanted to leave because industrial design wasn't really what I wanted to work with, because it felt too strict. And as I said before, being a part of this big scale production apparatus, that wasn't really my idea of what I wanted to do. But then I had this really fantastic professor, Klaus Christian Eckhardt, and he convinced me to stay because I wanted to move into art school instead of the design school. But he convinced me to stay and said that there are many designers before, and the design scene needs designers like you who are critical. And so I've worked in this way since I graduated, in a more critical and maybe experimental and exploratory way. And that's a lot. I have a lot to, I mean, Klaus was my inspiration for that, really. So, and today I'm quite happy that I didn't go to art school, because I feel freer as a designer. The things that I can do is less limited than if I would be an artist, I think.
Yes. Do you come from a design background yourself?
Not really. I come from a very traditional, like middle class upbringing, but there were design around me. Like my father, he ran a small interior carpentry, and that worked with like design, of course. And my mother, she had a fashion store. That's also design. And a lot of my family and relatives did different kinds of creative things as a hobby. For example, painting or sewing or growing, like having a big garden, growing stuff. So maybe I actually, even though I'm the first, me and my brother are the first in our family that actually got a creative education and now works creatively. But maybe I actually grew up in a quite creative context and family when you think about it.
It sure sounds like it. Um, I want to ask you this. You seem very conceptual, right? That's fair to say. But how much time do you allocate for just coming up with ideas? Do you take like a day a week or like a week of the month off to just go somewhere and think? Or how does that work for you?
Well, I'm an introvert person, and the inspiration and the conceptual part sort of comes from within me. And it's an ongoing process that is sort of working all the time. I would say I don't have any hobbies, but if I would have to mention something that is my hobby, it's daydreaming and fantasizing. I do that a lot. So this conceptual part that is so important within my practice actually doesn't take so much time, maybe 10% in a project in the beginning. It's like, you know, I guess it's the same for you. It's an ongoing process in your head.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I'm interested in what does a typical day of yours look like? I mean, because people have this idea of people being dreamers, but I guess it's hard work as well.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, I think many people believe that it's very a glamorous world. It's not at all. I mean, it's really hard work. I'm either here in this studio writing or reading or doing administration or sketching, or I'm in my other workshop, which is more like a production workshop. And it's like being in that workshop is like a CrossFit kind of situation. It's very hands-on, quite dirty, lifting heavy things. But I wouldn't say there is a normal day, like a classic day. How it's different from every day is different, I would say. But yeah.
Yeah, I read on your website that you work at Yllefabriken in Marieholm.
Yeah.
Do you have a creative community going on there, and you sit there and drink coffee and laugh and come up with ideas?
I wish I had. I only have one neighbor, a ceramist called Margit Brundin. She's fantastic. We do drink coffee and share creative ideas. But otherwise, it's this very like parallel world out there. It's in the middle of nowhere in this very, very small village. And it's mostly car workshops and flea markets and a tofu factory and I mean, the Hells Angels used to be there, Bandidos used to be there. It's a very rough factory area.
Right.
Not so much creative studios, unfortunately.
Because, I mean, Yllefabriken means wool factory, and I'm thinking of this red brick, 150-year-old building with
Yeah,
maybe like some kind of water feature
yeah.
outside that used to power the whole thing.
It's exactly what it is. You
Okay.
described it 100% accurate. But I mean, it's too far off in the middle of nowhere, so yeah.
Yeah. I tried to look it up on the map, and it was in Skåne somewhere, but
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, you have to drive a bit to get places.
Yeah, yeah.
A question I usually like to ask when I'm interviewing artists and designers is, does your mother understand what you do?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
Oh.
But I mean, I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding what I'm doing, and it's okay. I'm totally fine with that. I also try to do. I really try to make the outcome of what I do beautiful, so that it can be appealing, even though you don't know the theoretical part of it, or even if you don't understand the theoretical part of it. So for me, it's also important to work with the beauty and pleasing aesthetics. So sometimes I would say people understand, and mostly maybe not, but it's okay.
Well, I can tell we here in Helsinki, we get you completely, and so,
Yeah.
so don't worry about it.
But Kasper, does your mother understand what you're doing?
Well, not really, no.
No.
I mean, I guess that's a problem with all kind of jobs these days.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? They say fireman. They never say key account manager. So I guess that's the problem with most jobs. They're so abstract. But so you said, but you said that the public sometimes have a hard time understanding what you do. What kind of feedback do you get? Are people like upset when they email you or comment on your Instagram?
I would say it's either love or hate. There is no grayscale at all in the feedback that I get. And I mean, that's also okay. I prefer something than nothing. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm also thinking we had a look at a lot of your work that plays with the notions with 3 to 5 second production. You also have a line of furniture that's supposed to be made in 3 to 5 minutes. And you coming from the land of IKEA, I'm thinking you're using sort of the same methods here, but are you anti-IKEA yourself?
Generally, I don't see the point with something extremely large and big and global.
Right.
I prefer small scale local initiatives.
Yes.
Yes.
If IKEA asked you to do a design for their PS line, the cool line, would you say yes, though?
They won't ask,
Okay.
so
Well, now they will.
no.
No, but this is very interesting because you said you prefer the small scale stuff, and you are also creative director of SPOOK, which stands for Samtida Produktion och Konsumtion. So contemporary production and consumption.
Yeah.
What could you explain this to people watching?
SPOOK is an online platform that lists local production alternatives. When I started it in 2016, it was a reaction, I would say, that we could read in the newspapers that Swedish production was dead. But for me, as a designer who works a lot with local manufacturers, I knew that that wasn't really the reality. But I mean, if we are going to work with local production, we need to know what's around us. So it was a way of making local production alternatives transparent and free and open for everyone to sort of use. And now it has expanded to involve the whole country. So it lists all kinds of manufacturers. The only demand that we have is that someone wants to produce something for someone else. So it could be like someone in his or her basement, just a one-person hobby thing. And it can also be like a bigger company producing items. So that's sort of the main idea.
Yeah, and you started this thing a few years back, and has it taken off properly?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely. Since we just started very small here in the southern part of Sweden and now is covering the whole country, I would say it works. It has worked out in a great way.
Right. But you're not selling the stuff people are producing on a website or anything like that. Everybody just does their own thing, but this is a resource for people wanting to manufacture.
Just visualizing the possibilities there are in your region. For example, if I'm in the northern part of Sweden, what's around me? What kind of materials and what kind of manufacturers can I find where I live or where I'm working from? So it's more of, it's about visibility. What is possible?
Yes. Yeah, I love that. And for people wanting to check this out, spook.com or what's the address?
I don't remember, but just Google SPOK and you will find it.
They'll Google it.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time that you wanted to quit? Like, this is not working out, I can't do this anymore?
Many times, of course. I would say every year, at least.
Yeah.
Not every day, every year, but at least twice every year, I sort of question what I'm doing. I have this kickoff with myself in the beginning of the year and then after the summer break. And during that kickoff, I always like, what am I doing? Should I be doing this? What is it? And I would say before it used to be maybe, do I have, can I afford working like this? Because that was the main problem, I would say. And nowadays it's more about why do I do this? And why is it important? Is it important? Should I continue? I don't know. But still, I don't really know what to do else because this is what I'm sort of love doing, and it's such a privilege to do it, and it's the most fun thing I know. So
this is the way you overcome those thoughts than just
yeah,
going.
because I can't really come up with what else to do.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. What else am I good at?
But there is this theory that you're clearly good at this and you should keep going on. But I think it's very healthy for everyone to hear that even like everyone has these thoughts all the time in the design field. So was there a time though that you thought like, I've made it, I'm successful now? Like, no, like big exhibition at the Design Museum in Helsinki. Didn't you go like, I made it now?
No, I don't think I will ever think like that. But I'm super happy for the exhibition. And it's my first like really big solo exhibition at a museum of this quality. So of course it was a great thing for me.
Right. If I may ask, this is something I ask everyone, how would you define success? What would success mean for you?
So I would say it connects to the book that you showed in the beginning, the book called Strategies for Moving Freely. That has been my sort of goal throughout my practice, to be able to be free. So I would say that is my definition of success. For me, at least, when I felt that I'm totally free to do whatever I want within my practice. Yeah, that's sort of been my strive.
You said earlier that this is your life now and you don't know what else to do. But if someone pointed a gun at your head and said, you have to think of something else to do, what would it be?
I think I could maybe be good at managing situations that needed to be fixed. Like, oh, we have a broken situation. Can someone come and fix it? I don't know the job title of that, but
You could work for United Nations.
Sorry?
You could work for the United Nations. Just negotiate.
Yeah, negotiation. Yeah, maybe Johnny Ståhl could come in and do magic. I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
that's good. Or the new guy, Max. Love him.
Yeah.
So talking about your career, what's your biggest regret over the years? Or do you have any?
I normally don't regret things. So
that's a good, healthy attitude.
Yeah. I mean, you learn by your mistakes. I've done so many mistakes, but this sounds like such a cliche, but it's true. You do learn from your mistakes, so I don't really regret anything.
No, fantastic. I love it. So when you do these interviews, what's a question you never want to be asked again?
How do you manage being a designer and a mom simultaneously?
Oh, okay. Is that still a problem in 2024?
Yeah, don't ask me about that, please.
Okay. And I mean, I get it, like a male designer wouldn't be asked that in the same way.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's weird. Anyway. Do you, and we're wrapping this up pretty soon-ish, but do you have any good advice for designers just starting out just now, like the younger generation?
Yeah, I think it's also the classical answer there, like, do your own thing. Don't copy other designers. Don't do what's trendy at the moment. Try to find what is your contribution, what is your thing within the design scene.
That sounds very good. And if you could give your younger you some advice, what would that be? Say you're like, if you had to give advice for yourself starting out, say 20 years ago when it was.
Yeah. I don't know. There are so many things I would do differently, but just don't hesitate. Just like believe in yourself. Which I actually have done, but that has been sort of a struggle, I would say. In the beginning, I was seen as really weird, and I'm happy that I didn't let that sort of come in the way for me. So maybe something around that. I don't know.
All right. And for all the Nordberg fans out there, what are you working at the moment?
I'm doing a really big chess for this large square in Stockholm called Sergels Torg, which is in the middle of the center in Stockholm. So I'm doing this game for Sergels Torg, which is such a fantastic assignment. Really fun, I would say.
It is cool. And that place really needs something as well. It's a pretty big open area.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap this up in a moment, but I want to do recommendation station.
Yeah.
In other words, is there anything you could recommend to people? A book or a good film you've seen lately or something?
Yes, and I have prepared this. So I'm recommending this game. It's called The Weave Reader. It's by the Swedish artist Imre Sandström. You sort of enter this game with a question or a thought, and the game sort of helps you to think in new ways around this question or thought, and you come out of the game with unpredictable solutions. So fantastic game.
Wave Reader, you said?
The Weave Reader.
The Weave Reader, yeah. We need to Google that.
Yeah.
Cool, but I think we know everything about you now, Jenny. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Kasper, for doing it.
And I will be following you, as will probably everyone watching at the moment. Thank you for now. I'll be logging off.
Me as well.
Have a fantastic one and a good spring, and love
You too.
love you right back.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.